Imagine house hunting, but in the Fallout universe. Forget Zillow and the American dream. The post-apocalyptic housing market is wild and extremely creative. Your options range from living in a rusted-out shack where your neighbor is a two-headed Brahmin, to towering pre-war luxury apartments with working elevators and actual chandeliers. So we're going to tackle a favorite question of ours that we've been wanting to make a video on for quite a while now. Who has the best real estate in Fallout? And to figure it out, we'll look at all kinds of homes or shacks across the Fallout series. Pre-war skyscrapers turned luxury towers, vaults built by Vault-Tec, bustling settlements, and even some wild cards like flying fortresses or haunted mansions. We'll weigh them by a few key things. Safety, because let's be honest, raiders would be shit neighbors. Amenities, is there running water, working electricity, a leaky roof? Community, because you're not just buying the house, you're buying the neighborhood. And of course, the X factor. The cool, the weird, the ridiculous stuff that makes the place stand out. By the end, we'll crown one spot in the Fallout universe as the best real estate. If you guys enjoy Fallout content, then you're in the right place. We have a ton on the channel and a lot more to come, so consider subbing. If you guys want to check out a cool Discord where we chat about Fallout, the channel, and just gaming in general, then check the description and come hang out. Thanks for watching and enjoy the vid.
When the bombs fell, most people's housing options instantly downgraded to rubble and ruin, but not everyone. Some pre-war locations managed to hold on to their luxury, at least for a little while. These spots are the equivalent of gated communities or luxury condos that somehow survived the apocalypse.
So, what do you think of my fine tower here? It's quite the jewel of the Wasteland, isn't it? I dare say I'm quite proud of it myself.
Tenpenny Tower is one of the most ridiculous displays of wealth in the Fallout universe. It's a luxury hotel that somehow survived the Great War and turned into a gated community for rich people who think the apocalypse doesn't apply to them. Before the bombs, the place was already fancy. It was a pre-war resort built for people who had too much money and nowhere better to spend it. Michael Masters, who was a scientist before he became a ghoul, said it was a resort for the wealthy and powerful. So even before the world ended, Tenpenny Tower was about exclusivity, meaning only the ultra-rich got in. Now if we fast forward 200 years later, nothing has really changed. Mr. Tenpenny himself, an entrepreneur from England, found the building and claimed it for himself. He looked at this massive structure in the middle of the wasteland and thought, yeah, that's mine. He hired workers to clean it up, repaired the damaged sections with scrap metal, and built concrete walls around it. Then he brought in Chief Gustavo and a small private army to guard the place. They managed to get power running again by siphoning electricity from the underground metro system, and even found clean water that wasn't irradiated. By Wasteland standards, it's paradise. Inside, not only are the living quarters grand, but there's also a functioning mini society. The building has shops, a bar, a clothing store, and a wellness center. You've got places like your local boutique for fashion, your cafe for food, and the Federalist Lounge for drinks, as well as Gustavo's Armory if you need weapons. There's even a doctor's office and a Protectron bartender named Shakes who never stops serving.
I'm Shakes. Wet your whistle?
The residents live in private suites, and Tenpenny himself has the penthouse with a view of the wasteland. He actually spends his time standing on the balcony with a sniper rifle taking shots at random things for fun, and he literally calls it his wasteland safari. The tower's population is full of snobs. There's Herbert Daring Dashwood, the retired explorer who spends his days bragging about his old adventures.
Maybe you've heard the GNR radio play? The Adventures of Herbert Daring Dashwood? That's about me, you know. Based on my, earlier days. There's Suzanne Lancaster, who keeps a little black book of her lovers and gossip. You've got Anthony, Lydia, and other shop owners catering to the upper class. Everyone, and I mean everyone there, acts like the bombs never fell. They drink and they gossip and they pretend the wasteland below them doesn't exist. The most controversial part about Tenpenny Tower is its no ghouls allowed rule. Tenpenny doesn't want them inside because he thinks they're disgusting and dangerous and ultimately bad for business. The chief himself calls them a problem and starts looking for ways to keep them away. That leads to one of Fallout 3's biggest moral choices, deciding if you'll side with Tenpenny and keep the ghouls out, or help Roy Phillips and his group of ghouls break in. If you help the ghouls get in peacefully, the humans eventually disappear. And by disappear, I mean the ghouls kill them off. If you help Tenpenny get his walls closed, it's just another example of the rich locking out everyone else. Either way, the tower's perfect society falls apart the moment you interfere. From a real estate perspective, Tenpenny Tower is probably one of the best places to live in the entire capital wasteland. It's safe,
it's powered, and it has working water, food, and luxury apartments. But it's also a perfect snapshot of the old world's arrogance. People here live above everyone else, both literally and socially. They sit behind their concrete walls and act like the apocalypse stopped at the gate. Sure, Tenpenny might call it paradise, but it's really just a screwed up wave of pre-war greed that refuses to die. So, where does that leave us? Let's start with the pros. First, it's one of the safest places in the capital Wasteland. Raiders and super mutants don't just casually walk in, and if a nuclear bomb goes off in the background, you will likely still survive. Secondly, Tenpenny himself has money and weapons, more money and more weapons, and influence. He keeps the place well secured. And as for the amenities, well, there's working electricity, actual furniture, and even art on the walls. And let's not forget the chandelier. We don't see too many of those in these parts. But there is a major con. Your landlord is Mr. Tenpenny. But if you blew up the town next door using a nuke at his behest, then maybe he's your type of guy. Also, the residents are some of the snobbiest in the entire Fallout series.
Tenpenny is a classy place. Just look at me.
This isn't so much a community as it is a country club where everyone looks down on anyone who doesn't fit in. Oh, and there's that little ghoul problem at the gates, which can end with either a massacre or ghouls overrunning the tower. Not exactly indefinitely peaceful. I would say that Tenpenny Tower is high on luxury, but low on neighborly warmth. I'd say safety is an A if you're human, amenities are an A+, community is a D, and the X factor is an A. Overall, the community is so bad here, I'd rank it a B+.
Were we always so refined? I'd be lying if I said yes. But I've always felt we were destined for a place atop modern society. And now, here we are.
The Ultra-Luxe is what happens when the apocalypse meets fine dining. It's the fanciest casino on the New Vegas Strip, run by people who wear white gloves and talk like they never crawled out of the desert. The building looks absolutely perfect from the outside with smooth marble floors, gold lighting, fountains, and an atmosphere that exudes money. It's meant to look like an oasis of luxury surrounded by ruins. But just like Tenpenny Tower, that kind of perfection comes at a cost. Before the war, the Ultra-Luxe was already a big deal. It opened around the same time as the Tops Casino and was famous for its high-class gambling and restaurants. There was even a mob shootout there back in 2072 that killed 5 mobsters and injured 17 people. The building of course survived the bombs and still stands as one of the most complete examples of old world architecture on the Strip. 200 years later, the casino is run by a group called the White Glove Society, and they take class a bit too seriously. Everyone wears formal suits, white gloves, masks to hide their faces, acts superior, and the list goes on. They run the place with strict manners and polite speech, but they're hiding a disturbing past.
Adieu.
Before they became refined, the White Glove Society used to be cannibals. Mr. House forced them to give it up when he reopened the Strip, and now they act like that part of their history never happened. But behind the scenes, some members still think about it, and a few, like Mortimer, are trying to bring it back. Inside, everything is clean and organized. The main floor has the casino, the bar called the Top Shelf, and a few gambling tables with roulette and blackjack. You'll notice there are no slot machines here. The restaurant, the Gourmand, is run by a chef named Philippe, who's basically the Gordon Ramsay of the Mojave. He's angry and talented and absolutely impossible to please. The food is famous for dishes like Brahmin Wellington, and the waitlist is long enough that some people think it's fake just to make the restaurant seem more exclusive. The casino also has a bathhouse along with private hotel rooms and an area called the Bon Vivant Suite that you can win by gambling enough chips. If you're a high roller, you get free rooms, free food, and access to the member-only areas just like in Vegas. But the real VIPs are the White Glove Society themselves. They keep to their own dining rooms guarded by bouncers with dress canes and fancy words. Downstairs in the basement are the kitchens and the freezer where some of New Vegas's darkest stuff happens. This includes the Beyond the Beef quest where the society kidnaps Ted Gunderson for a dinner that's supposed to put the old flavor back on the menu. For a player walking in, the Ultra-Luxe seems calm and polite, but if you talk to enough people, it's obvious something is very off. Guests go missing, and Mortimer's behavior gives away that the club's civilized image is just a cover. It's the cleanest, most polished kind of horror Fallout does, where the monsters wear tuxedos and smile while they plan a feast. Now, when it comes to real estate, the Ultra-Luxe is top tier. The structure itself is almost spotless, with working electricity, a functioning water system, and a full casino staff. It's one of the safest and most comfortable places in the Mojave. Mr. House even said he'd eat at the Gourmand every night if he could. That says a lot considering he's basically a 200-year-old machine running a city. So what are the pros? First, luxury. The Ultra-Luxe still has working lights, which is a luxury in itself, a full restaurant, clean water, and a functioning bathhouse. It's air-conditioned, has working elevators, and offers one of the only places in the Mojave where you can eat something that doesn't come out of a can. It's also very secure, and if you've got chips, you're living like royalty. Now, the cons. You're surrounded by cannibals and tuxedos. The entire leadership of the White Glove Society is built on denial and old habits they're one bad dinner party away from bringing back. It's also a place of social pressure. You either fit their definition of classy or you don't belong. The air of luxury is fake, and most people inside are either terrified of losing status or too proud to admit they're scared. The Ultra-Luxe is the Wasteland's definition of high-end real estate, elegant and fully operational, but most importantly safe. But underneath the chandeliers and marble floors, it's the same story as everywhere else in Fallout. People trying to forget what they really are. Much like Tenpenny, this place is a B+. Safety is an A if you're not the one being eaten, amenities are an A+, community is a D, and the X factor is an A.
If you were picking one of the strangest but most interesting spots to live in the Fallout universe, Bradburton's office would be near the top of the list, and I don't think a lot of people would have really thought about that. It sits inside Nuka Town, USA, part of the huge amusement park turned raider base known as Nuka World. Of course, when you get there, it looks like a normal pre-war office. There's a small reception desk, a staircase, and a few pieces of furniture that have somehow stayed together after 2 centuries. In all honesty, it would probably be a nice place to live. Well, if there weren't murderous raiders everywhere. But this isn't just another forgotten building. It once belonged to John Caleb Bradburton, the man who created Nuka-Cola and later built the entire park. It wasn't a regular workspace, it was his personal headquarters, and later a hiding place for something he didn't want anyone to know about. He came up with Nuka-Cola in the 2040s and opened Nuka World in 2050. As he got older, he poured money into 2 major military projects, Project Cobalt and the LeapX life extension system. That second one changed his life completely. Scientists told him the machine could only support about 15 pounds of living material, so he agreed to only have his head kept alive. The Great War hit soon after, and roughly 200 years later, he's still down there in a vault, hooked up to machines and aware of every passing day. Yeah, it's kinda dark and weird, but this little vault is the crowning jewel of this spot. Upstairs, everything still looks neatly arranged. His desk and terminal sit untouched, and an old safe holds a few relics from his business days. Then you might notice something a little strange beside a Nuka-Cola machine. A small button. When you press it, a bookshelf slides away to reveal an elevator. This mundane office space suddenly becomes an entrance to something sealed far below. The elevator leads to Bradburton's private bunker, an underground chamber that's part home, part museum, and part tomb. One wall holds display cases filled with perfectly preserved pieces of pre-war engineering. Nearby sit 2 vehicles kept in flawless condition, a Lone Wanderer motorcycle and a Cherry Bomb sports car. In the center is the machine keeping Bradburton's head alive, still speaking and still aware. To one side, a compact control room runs the systems that sustain him. On the other side, a locked security door marks the end of the bunker. Whatever you think of the man, it's an incredible piece of hidden design. As a home, Bradburton's office is small but safe. Raiders rule Nuka Town, USA, but this structure stands apart from all of that chaos. The thick pre-war walls in a sealed room create a seclusion most Wastelanders can only dream about. There's power, storage, and the comfort of living inside preserved history. It's meant for one person and not a group. You won't be farming or running shops here, but you'd have a secure base to plan, rest, and stay out of sight. Also, getting inside takes a lot of effort. The door is locked until you complete a task for Sierra Petrovita. She sends you across the park to find 10 hidden Cappy symbols. Each one only appears while wearing her Cappy glasses. Bring them all back and she decodes the password for the keypad outside the office. Only someone who's explored every corner of the park can actually reach this building. That's a lot of security right there. Once the doors open, the entire area becomes yours to use. You can move between the upper workspace and the underground chamber, and every part of it carries history of Nuka-Cola. If you want, you can cut the power to the life support system, and Bradburton will finally die. That way you don't have to deal with the thought of him watching you every day. Unless you're into that sort of thing. Odd if that's the case. It could really be a pro or a con. For all the chaos in Nuka World, Bradburton's office is surprisingly secure. The building itself is tucked away inside the Raider-run park, which means most outsiders won't even get close without being torn apart by gangs first. That's assuming they don't also tear you apart. But in that assumption, if you made it this far, then you're probably already a raider yourself or connected somehow. Once you're inside, the reinforced pre-war structure and sealed elevator make it one of the few truly protected spaces in the area. The only real threats come from within the park, the raiders above, and the moral unease of sharing a bunker with the talking head of a dead soda tycoon below. Still, as far as Fallout living condition goes, it's one of the safest places you could claim without building your own vault. Electricity, working. Water, probably recycled and cleaned enough for basic use. Roof leaks, not a chance, it's underground. The downside is comfort. There's no kitchen, bathroom, or farmland, and the space is designed for isolation, not day-to-day living. You could set up a cot near the display cases or convert the upstairs office into a livable area, but it's a solo setup at best. It's a functional, low-maintenance hideout, not really a home. And to have your needs met, like food and possibly water, you do have to leave, right out into the park with the bloodthirsty raiders, and surprisingly close to the disciples. That would not be fun. Let's face it, Nuka Town is not the neighborhood you want. Raiders, chem addicts, and power-hungry gang leaders run everything around you. While the walls of Bradburton's office keeps the worst out, the populace above isn't exactly friendly. You won't be hosting dinner parties unless your guests are armed. Living here means full solitude, with Bradburton's disembodied voice as your only neighbor, unless you're a raider yourself, and then you might enjoy that. This is where the place shines. A secret elevator behind a bookcase, a private underground lab, the preserved head of the Nuka-Cola creator talking to you through a machine. It's easily one of the weirdest and most fascinating residences in Fallout. For a collector, historian, or anyone chasing the bizarre legacy of pre-war America, Bradburton's office is a monument to corporate America history.
These spots, Tenpenny Tower, the Ultra-Luxe, and Nuka World's executive offices are Fallout's version of upper-class housing. They prove that even after the apocalypse, the rich still find ways to insulate themselves from the chaos outside. But they're not perfect. Each comes with massive trade-offs, whether it's dangerous neighbors or an overbearing landlord. Next, we're going to leave the chandeliers behind and head underground, into the world of vaults, because no conversation about Fallout real estate is complete without Vault-Tech's luxury doomsday bunkers.
When people think Fallout real estate, vaults are probably the first thing that come to mind. Vault-Tech sold them as luxury doomsday bunkers, promising safety, comfort, amenities, and community when the bombs fell. Of course, what they didn't mention in the marketing brochures was that most vaults doubled as giant science experiments, so you were most likely buying a slot in a corporate-sponsored lab rat colony. Still, not all vaults are created equal. Some of them are nightmares, but others actually manage to feel like a halfway decent neighborhood. So in the spirit of cracking open a few vault doors, let's see what kind of real estate options we've got underground. Vault 101 sits in the hills northwest of DC, sealed and self-sufficient, with one goal baked into its design: never open. Now that could be considered a good thing or a bad thing depending on who you are. Vault-Tech didn't give it a GEC or a plan for rejoining the world. The experiment was to lock the door, hand an overseer absolute authority, and watch what generations of being alone will do to a closed society. Early on, overseers used control and announcements to keep people convinced that the surface was lethal. Kids grew up reciting a motto that promised safety as long as nobody touched the door. We are born in the vault, we live in the vault, we die in the vault. Around 2241, one overseer formed a survey team led by Ann Palmer and sent them up top to gather supplies and speak to locals while logging their finds. Two members, Lewis and Agnes, stayed in Megaton as contacts to trade information and keep a back channel open. When that overseer later vanished on another excursion, the door shut again under new management, and the experiment snapped back into place. Enter Alphonse Almodovar. By the time he took over, the vault had all the parts it needed to run forever, from long-term spares for its water processor to other core systems. Alphonse used that to lock down life even tighter, leaning on security, punishing pushback, and stamping out talk of the surface. But he did let James in around that time under strict terms. Behind all that daily routine were warning signs. The vault's water processor needed repairs, pests kept crawling in, and guards clamped down each time someone tested the rules. Everything broke in 2277. Rad roaches swarmed, and James used the chaos to run. Guards tried to plug the breach and grabbed anyone who might know where he went. And you know the rest. Just an utter breakdown of the vault's systems. James leaving ripped the seal off more than a steel door. Afterward, the vault split. Amada gathered most of the younger residents in the clinic and argued for controlled contact with the surface, small trade runs, and limited scouting. Alphonse dug in and reminded everyone of the motto and doubled patrols. Butch wanted out entirely. Then a radio call hit on vault frequencies from the Enclave asking for entry. A terminal record later confirms the overseer refused. but the message made it clear. The outside world knew 101 existed, and that's pretty much the history. But what's it like in the actual vault? Day to day, the place looks like a model vault. The atrium hosts games and announcements. Admin holds the overseer's office, security, and ops. The lower levels pack in the diner, clinic, classrooms, apartments, and the reactor rooms, the same area where you shot tin cans with your first BB gun. Then you have the overseer's tunnel that links directly to the entrance, a shortcut used during emergencies and escapes. Maintenance keeps everything running, burning trash, fixing jukebox, and adjusting pit boys and filters. It's all honest work, even if students grumble when the goat dumps them there. Every part of Vault 101 is built to keep people inside. The posters tell you the surface can't touch you. Guards keep watch near the blast door for anyone hanging around too long. The culture rewards compliance and treats curiosity like a disease. You still get a school, a clinic, randomized job placements, and an orderly calendar that makes time pass cleanly. You also get every decision pushed through one office with one locked door. When leadership is steady and fair, the control looks like stability. When it isn't, it turns into a police state with a friendly blue paint job. As a place to live, it's easy to pitch. The water is safe, potentially. The air is filtered, the lights work, kids learn their letters, elders get care, and you don't wake up to raiders pounding on the wall. You can go a lifetime without stepping in irradiated rain. For anyone born in the rubble, it sounds like a miracle. But that stability comes with a cost. Isolation builds paranoia. Guards treat questions as threats. Rad roaches outbreaks still happen, and when something goes wrong, the whole society shakes because there's nowhere to spread the risk. The experiment also breaks its own rules. Survey runs have happened, people escaped, and the door has opened more than once. Each time the myth needs patching, and each patch made the next tear worse. By the time the lone wanderer leaves, the culture can't even pretend anymore. Vault 101 is one of the safest places in the Wasteland. Its walls, filtration systems, and vault door make it nearly impossible for raiders or mutants to break in. You're protected from radiation, weather, and the nightmare outside. But the security comes at a price. Once you're inside, you live under the Overseer's rule. When leadership turns strict, that safety starts to feel more like a prison. Still, compared to the surface, it's hard to beat. Life here is stable. There's clean water, working power, and functioning schools and clinics. The system runs like clockwork, even after 200 years. You'll never go hungry or cold, but it's a predictable existence. There's no new supplies and no trade and no change. Everything works, but nothing ever evolves. It's comfort without freedom. Plus, if Fallout 1 ever taught us anything, you never know about those water chips. This might be surprising, but the people of Vault 101 follow rules, not passion. Under a fair overseer, life feels stable but mundane. Under a harsh one, it's oppressive. Talking about the surface is dangerous, and rebellion gets crushed fast. Neighbors act polite, but fear keeps everyone in line. It's a community built on control and not connection. Some of the people are good for sure, but most are just trying not to go insane. Vault 101's real draw is what it represents. It's the forever sealed vault, a perfect time capsule of pre-war life. That might be something people want badly. For historians or anyone who loves order, it's fascinating. A world untouched by the apocalypse. But for most people, it's too perfect, too controlled. The moment you start wondering what's beyond the door, that illusion breaks. Buried deep beneath Quincy Quarries lies Vault 88, an ambitious vault-tech build that never reached completion. Where Vault 101 sealed itself away from the world, Vault 88 never got the chance. Construction halted the moments the bombs fell, leaving only the entryway, security wing, and a reactor room finished. The rest of the complex sat half dug and forgotten, sealed behind limestone and concrete, until 210 years later when the sole survivor picked up an automated distress call. You'll hear a desperate recording from Overseer Valerie Barstow, trapped inside for centuries. Raiders have already gathered above, hammering away at the entrance. But once they're cleared out, your Pip-Boy grants you access through the heavy vault door, and you find what's left of the vault-tech dream. A collapsed corridor, flickering lights, and the Overseer herself. Ghoulified, but still alive. Barstow's still determined to finish her assignment, to build a better future underground, as Vault-Tech promised. Vault 88's original design was unique among its peers. Instead of housing a static population for social experiments, it was meant to be a research hub, a live testing ground for prototype technologies to be distributed to other vaults. Behavior shaping devices like the soda fountain filled with chems, the Phoropter wellness rig, and the slot machine were all on the table. But the war came first, freezing the project mid-construction. The engineers fled or died, leaving behind half-dug tunnels, sealed chambers, and the bones of plans never realized. Under Barstow's guidance and the sole survivors' rebuilding efforts, the facility becomes both a relic and a new beginning. Unlocking the sealed sectors turns the vault into one of the largest subterranean spaces in the Commonwealth. The central chamber is huge, big enough for heavy equipment and full housing sections. Limestone walls conceal ghoul nests, rad scorpions, and mole rat burrows. There's also a sentry bot and even a death claw behind sealed partitions. Each sector, the north, northeast, and east, can be excavated only after recovering its corresponding control board and restoring power, transforming piles of debris into open construction space. Once restored, the vault becomes one of the largest functional settlements in the Commonwealth. This place is a builder's dream. Cavernous rooms and snapping floors ready for modular expansion, with more junk than you'll ever need to scrap for materials. You can connect sectors, clear walls, and carve pathways that feel more like city streets than hallways. With enough patience, the entire vault can become a sprawling subterranean metropolis, part industrial bunker, part utopia in progress. But for all its potential, Vault 88 is still potentially an experiment. Overseer Barstow frames every decision as another test. Each room she wants completed and each device she encourages you to build comes with a tone of a true believer still following Vault-Tec's gospel, all of control through scientific improvement. This vault was never meant to be free. It was meant to study obedience and innovation in equal measure. But that's all to say if we're experiencing living here as the sole survivor or an actual resident. Both of those things would change a lot. Vault 88 starts rough. When you first find it, raiders, ghouls, and even deathclaws roam the unfinished tunnels. Once it's cleared and secured though, it becomes one of the safest underground spaces in the Commonwealth. The structure is solid, the reactor works, and the sealed entrances keep most of the threats out. Still, the size of the place makes it hard to patrol, and the cave-like sections can hide things you'd rather not run into. With enough settlers and defenses, it's secure, but it never feels quite fully tamed. Plus, are we ever sure if the Overseer would be running experiments on us or not? One of the vault's biggest strengths is flexibility. Once you power it up, you can build just about anything. Housing, farms, shops, even labs. There's working electricity, clean water, and endless room to expand. It's not as polished as Vault 81 or as orderly as 101, but that's part of the appeal. You're not stuck with what Vault-Tec planned. You get to finish the job your way. The only catch is upkeep. It's massive, and keeping everything powered and supplied can turn into a full-time project. But you can essentially have whatever you desire here. Vault 88's population depends on you. You can bring in settlers, assign jobs, and build a proper community from the ground up. There's no overseer breathing down your neck, unless you count Barstow, or you're one of the residents. But everyone works towards the same goal: survival through rebuilding. Still, that scientific improvement mindset is still there. Barstow's obsession with experiments can make daily life feel more like a test lab than a home, if you let it. Vault 88's uniqueness is its scale and story. It's the only vault you can truly finish yourself, a mix of mystery, engineering, and freedom that no other shelter offers. The unfinished corridors, the echoing caverns, the chance to design your own underground world. It all feels like stepping into Fallout's version of SimCity. Whether you build a utopia or a nightmare lab, the vault reflects you completely. Vault 81 is what every Vault-Tec experiment could have been, functional and alive, because one woman refused to follow orders. Located in the Western Commonwealth near Chestnut Hill Reservoir, it's one of the few vaults still running as intended in 2287. Its lights are on, its children still attend class, and its people still call it home. But this was never really meant to be the case. Vault 81 was designed to test the limits of medical science through human experimentation, turning its residents into unwilling test subjects for a universal cure. The experiment was pretty cruel even by Vault-Tec standards. The vault was built with two sections: the main residential area where normal citizens would live their lives, and a secret research wing sealed behind reinforced walls. The lab scientists were to release airborne diseases through the hidden vents, infecting the people while studying their symptoms and testing experimental cures. If things went wrong, those same nozzles could disperse an incinerating compound to purge the vault. Sounds lovely, right? But the first overseer, Dr. Olivet, saw through the lie. She had joined Vault-Tec believing in the promise of safety and not sacrifice. On the morning of October 23, 2077, she discovered the truth. Vault 81 wasn't a refuge, it was a petri dish. So when the call came to begin the project, she made her choice. Olivet deliberately sabotaged the internal alert systems so that the science staff wouldn't be notified. 3 still showed up: Kenneth Collins, Jim Flint, and a technician named M. Burrow. But Olivet sealed the doors behind them, locking the research wing away from the main vault. Her people would live, but it also meant trapping the scientists inside. Meanwhile, behind those locked walls, Vault 81 thrived. Dr. Olivet's decision became its salvation. The vault evolved into a genuine community built on families and education, with overseers who kept vault tech systems running. Overseer Ba initiated the push to open the vault, and Gwen McNamara opened it in 2277 to begin cautious trade. Outsiders were watched closely, but the vault's population stayed wary of the Commonwealth's dangers. Vault 81 itself is very different from the other vaults in the Commonwealth. The living spaces are warm and lit. The cafeteria serves real produce from the hydroponics run by Dr. Pensky, and you'll hear laughter carrying down the halls. There's a barber, a classroom where kids study vault life and hear about the goat, and a small trading post where caravans like Cricket sometimes stop by outside. The reactor is fully functioning beneath the floor, powering a vault that never fell into chaos. Standing in Vault 81's atrium, hearing families talk and kids run past, it's easy to forget the horror that almost happened here. The walls are clean and the people are kind. But somewhere in the lower tunnels, rusting behind locked bulkheads, sits the section where one scientist saved this vault from becoming a living nightmare, which would have probably had an impact on my rankings for this vault. Vault 81 is one of the safest places in the Commonwealth. The systems work, the air is clean, and the security team actually protects people instead of controlling them. The Overseer keeps things orderly without turning the place into a dictatorship, and the reactor still runs like it did before the war. The only real danger is curiosity. Wander too far into the sealed medical wing, and you'll find out why this vault almost became a death trap. Still, compared to the madness above, it's as secure and stable as post-war life gets. This vault feels alive. The lights work, the crops in the hydroponics grow fresh food, and the residents have real beds, schools, and recreation. There's a clinic, a barber, and even a small trading hub for outside caravans. It's not exactly luxury, but it's functional, clean, and fully sustainable. You could spend your entire life here without ever missing the surface. And if you did, well, at least you can head on out. Vault 81 is a community in the truest sense. People know each other, raise families, and actually cooperate. The Overseer leads with a steady hand, and outsiders are treated with caution instead of hostility. That said, it is still a vault. Everyone's lived underground for generations, and there's always a suspicion towards newcomers. It's friendly once you earn trust, but you'll always feel like an outsider until you prove yourself. This is one vault that should have been a horror story, but became a success instead. Because one Overseer chose compassion over protocol, the vault turned into a working society instead of an experiment. Behind the walls lies a sealed lab filled with the reminders of what could have been. It's not perfect, but it might be one of the few places in Fallout that could actually feel like a home.
Vault 21 is one of the strangest real estate stories in all of Fallout because it literally used gambling as government policy. Everything about this vault was designed around luck and chance. It wasn't just a theme, it was a law. Before the war, Vault Tech built it under what would later become the New Vegas Strip, right near where the Lucky 38 and the Tops are today. Once the bombs fell, Vault 21 sealed up and survived just fine. Inside it became known as the Gambler's Vault. Here's how it worked. Every resident in Vault 21 was equal, no matter their rank, background, or gender. Whenever a disagreement came up, they didn't argue, they gambled. If two people had a fight over resources, they'd play blackjack. If entire groups had a dispute, their chosen representatives would play each other. The winner got to make the decision. According to Sarah, one of the last people who grew up there, it was pure New Vegas. Everyone had a chance, and luck decided who ran things. It was one of the rare Vault Tech experiments that actually worked. Nobody starved, and the people there created their own kind of democracy through gambling. The entire vault was built to match the same idea, a symmetrical layout with equal rooms and fair spacing, so no one could claim they had better living quarters than anyone else. It was built on fairness, but also on the belief that luck was the ultimate judge. That all ended when Mr. House showed up. In 2274, he contacted the vault and offered them a deal to open their doors and become part of the new city of New Vegas. The vault dwellers were divided on it. Half wanted to stay underground and the other half wanted to join him. So, following their rules, they decided the outcome with a blackjack game. The pro house side won, and it's kind of poetic because the people of Vault 21 gambled their freedom and lost. Inside, the rooms look more like an art exhibit than a vault. There's the old atrium with blackjack tables still in place, a cafeteria, and bedrooms decorated with vault memorabilia. There's even a rentable guest room that still has a working light switch, which is a small miracle by Wasteland standards. The rest of the vault, though, is gone. Mr. House made sure of that. He poured concrete through the lower levels, sealing them forever. Some of those tunnels still exist under the Tops Casino, but you can't reach them without a key or a glitch. The few survivors from Vault 21 scattered across the Mojave. Doc Mitchell from Good Springs used to live there before moving out. Sarah's brother Sheldon stayed there for a while, but eventually left too. Vault 21 went from a living community to a tourist stop in just a few years. You can still hear faint vault music playing in the background when you walk through. It's peaceful but sad, like it's remembering the people who used to call it home. Now, for the real estate angle, Vault 21 is prime property. It's directly under the strip, meaning it's surrounded by the most profitable land in the Mojave. It's safe, has stable air and temperature, and even has working lights thanks to House's power grid. As far as underground living goes, this place is one of the most comfortable vaults ever repurposed. Plus, it's basically bomb-proof since half of it is filled with reinforced concrete. The pros are fairly extensive. First, it's incredibly secure. No raiders have ever gotten in thanks to the guards outside, no radiation likely ever will seep through, and super mutants pose almost no risk. It's also one of the few vaults that isn't a death trap. The atmosphere is calm and the rooms are clean and fairly well lit. Sarah's hotel setup means you get to live inside an actual vault with actual amenities and working power, and it's right next to the strip. Honestly, you couldn't ask for a better location if you still wanted to be near the action but still stay protected. And how about them Gamora gals? The cons is that the vault is mostly gone. Mr. House filled more than half of it with cement, which means the lower levels and living quarters are sealed forever. You're basically living in a museum with little community, and for Sarah, that's painful. Her entire home, her childhood, her family's history, it's all trapped under a mountain of concrete. Plus, it's limited in space, so expanding your home quarters will never happen. Vault 21 is one of those Fallout locations that looks cheerful on the outside, but carries a deeper, sad history underneath. It's a vault that survived the apocalypse, built a functioning society, but then lost it all because of a game of blackjack. It's still standing and it's stylish, but the thought that even your home can come down to the luck of a draw might nag at you. Safety is an A+, amenities are an A-, community is an A, and the X factor is a B. Overall, I'd give this place a B. It isn't bad by any means, but there's just something missing. If vaults are about isolation and control, then Wasteland Communities are the opposite. They're chaotic, they're fragile, but they're also vibrant. These are the places where humanity tries to rebuild. Towns made out of scrap metal or the ruins of pre-war suburbs, or even old stadiums. And depending on what you're looking for, these can actually be some of the most appealing real estate options in Fallout. Diamond City is the heart of the Commonwealth, built right in the middle of Old Fenway Park. Before the bombs fell, it was just Boston's baseball stadium. On the morning of October 23, 2077, the team that played there was supposed to play Game 7 of the World Series, the first chance Boston had to win since 1918. But the bombs fell before the game even started. The players warming up that morning actually survived the blast thanks to the stadium's walls, which tells you something about how strong this place really was. 100 years later in 2130, survivors turned the old stadium into a walled settlement. The green metal around the left field wall gave it its nickname, the Great Green Jewel. Over time, that nickname became a source of pride. What used to be home plate is now the market square, and the stands are filled with homes and shops. These people built plumbing, farms, schools, walkways, even a radio station, Diamond City Radio, which can still be heard across the Commonwealth. By 2287, it's the biggest and richest city in the region with its own mayor and economy that practically keeps Boston running. So based on everything I covered, on the surface you could say Diamond City looks like a comeback story, civilization rebuilt inside an old sports arena. But like so much in Fallout, the deeper you look, the messier it gets. The city is split between the upper stands and the lower fields. The rich of course live above in the old stadium seating, looking down on everyone else. The poor live below on the field working and keeping the city running. The higher up you go, the cleaner it gets, and the less people want to talk about the ones below them. Diamond City's history is filled with both triumphs and disasters. In 2180, the Minutemen defended it from a super mutant invasion, and that victory turned them into heroes and cemented Diamond City as a symbol of hope. But 50 years later came the Broken Mask incident, one of the most important moments in Fallout history. A man named Mr. Carter walked into a Diamond City bar, ordered a drink, then suddenly opened fire, killing several people. When security took him down, they found out he wasn't a man at all. He was a synth. That discovery created a wave of paranoia that never went away. From that moment on, people in Diamond City feared the Institute. They believed their friends could be replaced overnight and started seeing synths as monsters hiding in plain sight. Now, that fear shaped everything that followed. By 2282, a man named McDonough ran for mayor on a platform of getting rid of ghouls and keeping real humans safe. He won by appealing to the rich in the upper stands, then immediately banned all ghouls from the city. Families who had lived there for years were thrown out overnight, they lost their homes, their belongings, and most of them died in the wasteland outside the walls. McDonough, of course, called it progress. Everyone else called it what it was, a purge. And the irony is, McDonough himself isn't even a human. He's a synth, a plant from the Institute pretending to be the city's protector. Now, despite all that corruption, life goes on. The market is always busy because you've got stores like Diamond City Surplus, Power Noodles, Swatters, and of course the people that run these places. There's the paranoid shopkeeper who questions every customer about being a synth, and Mo, who runs a baseball shop without realizing baseball wasn't actually a combat sport. There's Piper Wright and her sister Nat, who run Public Occurrences, which is a newspaper dedicated to exposing the city's problems. And then, of course, there's Nick Valentine, who's a synth detective who somehow became one of the most trusted people in town by helping others even when they hated what he was. Diamond City is one of those few places in the Wasteland that feels like an actual society. There's a school for kids, which is crazy to see. There's a church for every belief, and even holiday decorations that change with the seasons. Halloween pumpkins, Christmas lights, the works. They have working power thanks to a fusion generator in the center of town, clean water from a purifier, and crops grown both inside and outside the city walls. It's messy and imperfect, but for a world built on ruins, it's impressive. So let's talk pros. First, it's safe. The walls of Fenway Park are still solid 200 years later. Feral ghouls and the like can't seem to break through, and the city has its own armed security. You've got electricity, food, water, and community, which is rare in the Commonwealth. There's a market along with jobs and even radio entertainment, so it's not paradise, but by Wasteland standards, it's about as close as you'll get. Now, the cons. Diamond City is built on paranoia and inequality. The rich live comfortably while the poor are crammed together on the field. The mayor is corrupt, the police look the other way, and anyone different, whether they're a synth or a ghoul, is treated like an enemy. For a city that calls itself civilized, it still throws people out of their homes for being the wrong kind of person. And while it's protected from the Wasteland, it's not protected from itself. Diamond City is the best and worst of human civilization in one place. It's thriving, secure, and self-sufficient, but it's also divided, fearful, and hypocritical. The Great Green Jewel might shine brighter than anything else in the Commonwealth, but it's also built on the same cracks that broke the old world in the first place. I actually like Diamond City a lot. Amenities are an A+, X Factor is an A+, community is meh and deserves a B- because of McDonough, and safety also scores an A+. I'd say this is an A- overall. Goodneighbor sits where Scully Square used to be, right in Boston's old financial district. By 2287, it's run by John Hancock and packed with ghouls, drifters, criminals, and anyone who got pushed out of the nice parts of the Commonwealth. If you don't fit in at Diamond City, you probably end up here. The town started in 2240 when Diamond City kicked out a bunch of criminals. They set up shop in the ruins and built a place with one rule: everybody gets a shot. No upper stands or lower fields, no fancy neighborhoods. If you pull your weight, you're in. When McDonough won the mayor's seat in Diamond City in 2282 and banned ghouls, a wave of them fled here. John McDonough, yeah, the mayor's brother, followed them out of disgust and sank into chems and bad choices. Back then, a thug named Vic ran Goodneighbor like a mini dictator. One day he killed a drifter in front of John, and that was the turning point. John dosed himself with a radioactive chem, turned into a ghoul, blacked out in the old state house, and woke up next to a set of clothes that belonged to the real John Hancock. He took the name, took the coat, sobered up, armed a militia with the help from Cleo, and hit Vic's crew when they were partying. They dragged Vic onto the balcony and hanged him, and that's when Hancock looked down at the crowd and said, "Of the people, for the people." And that's been the town's motto ever since. Sure, Goodneighbor isn't clean, but it works. The memory den lets people dive into stored memories. The third rail is the bar under the old station run by Whitechapel Charlie. Cleo sells guns that kill or be killed, and Daisy runs a junk and general shop. The Triggermen wander around in suits like pre-war mobsters, and there's a neighborhood watch under Hancock to keep the peace. And they make it very clear the Institute isn't welcome here. People here still rob, deal chem, settle scores, do crazy shit, and dabble in the nefarious. Hancock's goal, however, is balance. Do what you want, just don't wreck the town. If someone crosses the line like Finn trying to shake down a newcomer, Hancock solves it pretty fast. So yeah, it's a community, just with rough edges and sharp corners. Goodneighbor's layout is pretty simple. Crisscross streets and old buildings turned into homes and shops. You can enter through the main gate, jump in from the broken skybridge, or slip out the alley behind Hotel Rexford. Some doors lead to Triggerman hideouts, and Whitechapel Charlie will pay you to clear them. Residents spit on the Institute's name and curse Diamond City for what it did to the ghouls, and that anger is part of the town's backbone. Now, as for the real estate talk, Goodneighbor is prime for people who want freedom over polish. You get a central Boston location, walkable streets, steady trade, and leaders who actually stand with the outcasts. What you don't get are curfews and snob rules or synth paranoia rants at every stall. There's a real community for anyone since ghouls and drifters are found here. For the better, there's no class ladder. You can have strong identity and fast justice under Hancock, and the neighborhood watch keeps raiders and triggermen from taking over, and all of the useful services can be found in one spot. There's easy in and out routes across the district. If you aren't rugged though, this place might not be for you. Crime is part of the daily life. Extortion can be found here, turf beefs occur, and chem deals don't stop. But if chems are your thing, then this place is the place for you. Safety depends on Hancock's grip and the watch, so if leadership slips, order cracks. There's also a rough housing stock. You're living in old storefronts and busted offices, not suites or farms. So bottom line, Goodneighbor is the Commonwealth's safety net for people the rest of Boston threw away. It's messy and loud and honest. If you want manners, go to the Jewel. If you want a place that won't judge you for the face you were born with, or the face you woke up with after ghoulification, this is home. Goodneighbor is weirdly similar to Diamond City for overall ranking at an A-. Amenities are an A+, X Factor is a B, community and leadership is solid if you like the ragtag crew and Hancock, and is an A, and safety is usually solid too. Usually.
Novac is one of those towns that shouldn't still exist but somehow does. Sitting along Highway 95 on the route to New Vegas and Repcon, it's a stop that turned into a home. The name came from the old no vacancy sign above the motel gate. 2 letters burned out, and nobody ever fixed them. That about sums up this place. Worn down, but still working. Most of the housing here is what's left of the Dino D-Light motel. Each room is its own little home, with a bed and a locked door. It's not luxury by any means, but it's shelter that doesn't leak, and that counts for a lot in the Mojave. Jeannie Mae Crawford runs the place from the front desk and handles room rentals. If the locals trust you, she, or later Cliff Briscoe, will hand over a key for next to nothing. Rooms usually rent for 100 caps, but they're free if the town likes you, so settling here is actually possible. It's one of the few stops where a traveler can unpack a bag and stay for good. Life in Novac runs at an easy pace. The main street has a few key spots: the motel, the Dino Bike gift shop under the big green dinosaur, and the gas station with a reloading bench and a few rocket parts from Repcon. You'll also meet Dr. Ada Strauss, the town's doctor who does what she can with the supplies she has. There's also Cliff Briscoe, who sells souvenirs, ammo, and the odd weapon here and there. Alice and Dusty McBride keep Brahman for trade and food. Ranger Andy, an old NCR ranger, lives in town and helps defend the place even after an injury forced him out of active duty. The dinosaur Dinky the T-Rex isn't just a badass landmark, it's actually part of Novac's defense. Craig Boone mans the post at night, and he and Manny Vargas have both used the perch to cover the town. The residents rely on those 2 rifles to stay protected. Novac's size is what keeps it nice and calm. There are about 18 people here, and everyone knows everyone. They share food and help patch roofs. They also keep the road clear for caravans passing through. The small scale makes it easier to trust people, even when most of the Mojave can't. Outsiders still make the residents nervous, but they'll warm up if you pull your weight or lend a hand. The NCR is also in the region. Ranger Station Charlie isn't that far, but the town mostly handles itself. As far as comfort goes, this is about as good as the Mojave gets for a traveler on a budget. You'll have working lights and basic utilities, and neighbors who look out for each other. You won't find a casino or a medical ward like in New Vegas or the Strip, but you'll find calm nights and steady company. If you need supplies, caravans come through now and then thanks to the increased traffic on Highway 95, bringing food, tools, and trade goods. That said, Novac has its limits. The doctor can treat cuts and rads, but if you take a bullet or need real surgery, you'd have to make it to New Vegas or the Followers Clinic in Freeside. The town's protection depends on whoever's taking the night shift in Dinky's mouth, and sometimes Legion patrols from Nelson area get too close for comfort. Supplies can run low, and everyone here knows that one bad week could push them into trouble. For a Mojave town, Novac is somewhat secure. The old motel walls and a small population make it easy to defend, and Dinky the Dinosaur doubles as a sniper nest that Boone and Manny Vargas can cover the highway from. Raider or Legion trouble does happen, but it's rare thanks to their Vigilant and the NCR presence nearby. The real danger isn't direct attack, it's scarcity. If the supply line's slow or the rifles go unmanned, the town's safety can crumble fast. There's also a massive nest of feral ghouls nearby, and really if a large group of Legionnaires rolled in, 2 snipers probably couldn't do much. You won't find luxury here, but you'll find comfort. Each motel room is private, dry, and affordable. There's running power, some plumbing, and a clinic run by Dr. Ada Strauss for basic care. The Dino Bite shop and nearby caravans keep the essentials flowing: ammo, food, and medicine. But if you want entertainment, advanced healthcare, or steady trade, you'll need to travel. Novac's got just enough to live, not thrive. Novac's biggest strength is its people. With only a handful of residents, everyone knows and looks out for each other. Ranger Andy helps where he can, the McBrides keep food on the table, and the townsfolk genuinely care about newcomers who prove trustworthy. Of course, there's gossip and the occasional tension, but nothing like the corruption or fear you'd find in the bigger settlements. I would have given it a higher ranking, but Jeannie Mae pulls it down a bit. You know, that old hag. This is about as average as it gets. I would have given it a C, but it is so iconic. The glowing Novac sign, the giant green dinosaur, it all gives it a classic New Vegas personality. It's one of the few places in Fallout that feels genuinely human, tired, resourceful, and holding on. And for a lot of wanderers, that's worth more than anything the Strip could offer. Megaton is one of the first real towns you come across after stepping out of Vault 101. And for a lot of people, it's the first sign that the Wasteland isn't completely dead. It's built in the middle of a massive crater, with houses welded together from airplane parts and old metal sheets, all circling one thing: a Megaton-class atomic bomb sitting in the crater. It's the reason for the town's name and the reason it exists at all. The people who built it just wanted somewhere safe, and the crater gave them that. The bomb just happened to be there already, and everyone decided it was best to leave it alone. After the Great War, survivors came here trying to get into Vault 101, but the vault's doors were sealed, so they stayed in the crater instead, using it as a shelter from the dust storms that swept across the capital wasteland. Traders started passing through later, and the crater slowly turned into a stopover spot. Anya Vargas's family helped turn that stop into a town. Her father worked with caravan routes and convinced the others to build walls out of old airplane debris from a nearby air station. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. Raiders couldn't break through, and the storms couldn't tear the place apart. Construction on the wall started around 2241, right after a raid that killed Colin Moriarty's father. That attack pushed the locals to finally reinforce the crater, and over the next few months, the shell of the town came together. The metal walls were patched, re-welded, and reshaped until Megaton started to look like a fortress. Some wanted to move the bomb during construction, but the children of Adam, who were already worshipping it, refused to help anyone who tried. In the end, the town agreed to leave it alone to keep their support and avoid the risk of moving it. The children set up their church beside the crater, preaching that the bomb's power represented rebirth. Everyone else just hoped it never went off. By 2277, Megaton had become a full settlement. Sheriff Lucas Sims runs the place, keeping order with a firm hand and a steady voice. There's no real government here, but everyone respects Sims enough to listen to when he gives an order. Colin Moriarty manages the saloon, keeping drunks entertained and feeding gossip across town. His employee Gob works the counter, and Nova runs the floor. Doc Church handles the clinic, fixing wounds and patching up whoever can pay. Moira Brown runs Craterside Supply, always smiling, curious, and ready to test a new idea on whoever will volunteer. The community is tight, if a little rough. Folks help each other out. The Brass Lantern serves food and drinks and doubles as a family spot for the stalls. You'll see kids running around the catwalks, traders resting near the gate, and settlers hauling scrap to patch up leaks in the walls. The layout looks pretty random, but it works. Ramps twist between levels, walkways connect homes, and everything leads back down to the nuke. The sheriff's house sits near the gate, while your own home, if the bomb is disarmed, overlooks the crater from the upper rim. Life here is about balance. Megaton isn't fancy. Power comes from local generators, the town's purifier and pipes keep water moving, and Brahmin inside the walls helps with trade. The soil's too irradiated for crops, so most food and water are brought in by caravans. The town thrives because it sits along the trade routes that link Rivet City and the old highways heading north and west. It's not rich, but it is steady. People stop here for supplies, repairs, or just to rest somewhere that isn't trying to kill them. For all its good points, living next to an atomic bomb is about as risky as it sounds. Deputy Weld, the robot greeter at the gate, claims that it's perfectly safe, but most locals aren't convinced. Sheriff Sims keeps an eye on the children of Adam, because he knows one wrong move could end everything. That fear is what makes the events of the Power of Adam so important. Mr. Burke, working for Alistair Tenpenny, tries to pay outsiders to arm the bomb for a payout. The houses in Megaton themselves are cramped and noisy, built from whatever materials were at hand. Corrugated metal works as roofing, and old fuselages make up most of the walls. Privacy's rare, but it's home for about 40 people. Many share spaces in the common house, while others keep small rooms of their own. Even with all that noise and clutter, Megaton still gives a good sense of security. Well, at least compared to the ruins of DC, or the open wasteland. Megaton is sturdy for a scrapyard town, but it's still sitting on a live nuclear bomb, so that automatically drops it to a C-. I truly contemplated making it an F, but since there's a possibility the bomb can be defused, I left it here. The crater's metal walls keep raiders out, and Sheriff Lucas Sims runs a tight, fair operation that keeps order inside. The town's position makes it a safe pit stop between the Wastes and Rivet City, but one fanatic with bad timing could turn it into a crater all over again. It's safe enough day to day, but the bomb is always ticking in the background. For a town built from airplane scraps, Megaton's got everything a survivor needs. There's a doctor, a general store, a bar, a diner, and a purifier for clean water. It's noisy and crowded, but you've got working power and a room of your own if you earn it. Trade routes keep the place stocked, though food and parts are always a little short. It's not comfortable, but it's self-sustaining, a rare thing in the capital wasteland. Megaton's heart is its people, but also some of its downfalls. Folks look after each other, and the sheriff's fairness keeps things from breaking down. The locals are rough but honest. Moira's curious, the stalls are steady, and even Gob at the saloon will treat you good. The children of Adam can make things tense, but they're tolerated more than feared. But there are also some real assholes here, like Moriarty, Jericho, and the old man who fixes the pipes, but I can't remember his name at the current moment. There's no place in Fallout quite like Megaton. The massive unexploded bomb at its center gives it an instant identity, a constant reminder of what survived and what could still end it all. The crater walls, the welded walkways, and the glowing shrine create a look and atmosphere you don't forget. It's dangerous, sure, but it's also iconic. If you want to live life on the edge, look no further. These towns and cities show the spectrum of Fallout real estate once you step out of the vaults. Diamond City is crowded but resource rich. Goodneighbor is gritty but welcoming. Novac is iconic but not exactly luxury. Megaton is also iconic but terrifying if you think too hard about the metaphorically glowing centerpiece. What unites them is that these places are built by survivors for survivors. They're messy and flawed, but alive and human. That humanity and groundedness creates the sense of comfort, at least for me.
Alright, I think it's time to pick a winner. We graded every place on 4 pillars: safety, amenities, community, and the X factor. Here's the truth. A chandelier doesn't beat clean water, and a locked blast door doesn't beat a decent neighbor. So let's get into it. Tenpenny Tower and the Ultra-Luxe are apex luxury, but both fail the vibe check though. Safety and amenities are S tier. Community is either hostile, hollow, or in Ultra-Luxe's case, hinting at tuxedoed cannibalism. That X factor? Iconic, but cursed. The Nuka World executive offices have pristine pre-war polish, but the HOA is literally raiders. Gorgeous bunker, terrible spot. Vault 101 is safe until the Overseer decides it isn't. Great amenities, zero community freedom, and the X factor is please state with cake. Vault 88 is a builder's dream. Infinite expansion, multi-exit layout, and raw potential, but it's unfinished and haunted by experiments. Safety is DIY and not necessarily not guaranteed. Vault 21 nails safety and location, but it's half entombed in concrete. As real housing stock, you're living in a museum with the gift shop energy. Diamond City thrives with power, markets, a school, a radio station, huge amenities and living community, but paranoia, class tension, and corrupt leadership ding safety, literally from the inside and the overall livability. Goodneighbor has heart, freedom, and fast justice. Community shines, the X factor is strong, but safety and amenities vary with Hancock's grip. Novac is cozy, private, and affordable. Amenities are thin and threats wander the highway. Megaton has soul for days, but your own mascot is an armed nuke. So here's the winner, Vault 81. It's the rare Fallout address where the math actually balances. For safety, we have a sealed vault infrastructure that still works, without mandatory tyranny. Amenities include stable power, clean air, clinic access, trade, and an actual school. The community is filled with compassionate people too. It's functional and led by people who chose ethics over experiments. It also has a bit of that X factor. Curie's storyline and the "we said no to Vault Tech" legacy soft power that makes the place feel human and not just habitable. Vault 81 may not be the flashiest, but it's the only option that consistently scores A- or better across all 4 pillars without an asterisk that is overly large. As for our runner-ups, well, I'd say Diamond City places in one of these spots for urban convenience and opportunity. If they fix leadership and paranoia, it's a contender. Vault 88 also places for limitless upside. With time and a patient foreman, it could surpass everyone. Weirdly enough, Tenpenny and the Ultra-Luxe could also be here if your love language is security deposits and pretending the wasteland is out there. Bring morals or don't. If you forced me to sign a lease today, I'd take Vault 81's key. If you gave me a year with a workforce and 1,000 shipments of concrete and infrastructure, I'd gamble on Vault 88 and build the future.
Fallout real estate isn't really about square footage. It's about trade-offs. Do you want a spotless lobby with skeletons in the boardroom, or a noisy market with neighbors who will actually drag you to the clinic? a vault that keeps the world out, or a city that lets the world in. Every address we visited answered those questions differently. In a future vid, we'll be looking more at remote retreats and the true wildcards. Skyships, science domes, haunted towers. We'll ask the same 4 questions: safety, amenities, community, X factor, but it will definitely get more weird. Also, if you're still here at this point, whether you're new or you've been here a while, we wanted to bring up that our Discord has dropped and we've had a great turnout already with the community. We wanted to use this as a way to interact with you guys better and have a safe place to just discuss Fallout and other RPG content. So if you guys are interested in joining a Discord like that, then let us know in the comments, and feel free to join using the link in the description. Also, you can always follow us on TikTok for Fallout Shorts or come through on X using those links in the description too. Remember guys, enjoy time is never wasted time, and I'll see you in the next.